Okay, that was weird. My stream just completely fucking crashed. That's awesome. You know, once again, it's just that that Starlink, you know, Starlink likes to crash every so often, so I re-uploaded it, so feel free to come on over and check it out. So fucking Starlink, I tell you. I'll probably just delete the old one then. But I'm still only gonna go until 9 o'clock, so that's such bullshit. I hate it when it does that. Like, Streamlabs just had to crash. Just had to effing crash. So, I just lost all the viewers I had, so. Oh, that's bullshit. Fucking Streamlabs, they just fucking had to crash on me. Okay, that's cool. That's cool, Streamlabs, that's cool. Oh, son of a bitch. So if the stream crashes and you're a guest on here, just bear with me. I'll have to restart the whole day. The stream automatically is going to restart, essentially. So so you have to bear with me. If the stream crashes, it's going to happen. It might happen. So let's try to make sure it does not happen anymore. That is bullshit. It should not be happening like that. I am not happy about that. But, you know, it is what it is. All right. So, all right. So, gotta wait for all the viewers to come back in here. And we'll wait for our first guest to populate in here. Mr. Glenn Lawrence will be popping in here to discuss the issues. He says he's going to be on here. That was about 15 minutes ago, so he'll be on here about 5-10 minutes maybe. So. Yep, sorry if you just populated back in here, but the stream crashed and it restarted. So if it happens again, it happens again. You know, I'm just going to keep rolling with it. So I don't know why it's happening like that. So. Okay, now my camera is going on the fritz. What the fuck? All right. So, waiting on our first guest as of right now. If you're just now tuning in, and I'm gonna keep saying it until so that way, if new people come on in and they want, just check down in the link below for the Zoom link. And once you find the Zoom link, we will then talk about. You'll click in, and then you'll populate over into here into this box. And I'm only gonna be bringing in one person at a time. Okay, so there will be a queue, but I will go in order of precedence, essentially. So even if you're like a person that's a big content creator, I'm still gonna go in order, okay? Because it's like a first come, first serve basis kind of deal. So sorry that the stream crashed. I don't know why it's crashing on me like that. That's bullshit. It shouldn't be doing that. So hopefully it doesn't do that again. Let's just, let's keep our fingers crossed for that. So yeah. So if you are voting for Donald Trump, you're free to just click on the link in the description below and you'll say why you are voting for Donald Trump, right? Why you are voting for Donald Trump. Why are people voting for Donald Trump? Go ahead and tell me why. Not everybody has the same reasons. Some people are voting for Donald Trump because of economic reasons. Some people say it's because he wants to own the libs. Some people say it's because he was better on the border. Some people say because we were better off. People ask, well, are we better off now than we were 4 years ago? Well, I'll save that question in the event that it gets asked to me. So feel free to just tune in, hit like, share, subscribe to this channel if you haven't done so already. We're gonna try our best to have good conversations tonight. So, and again, I'll try to, depending on the frequency of how many people are coming in here, I'll try to limit between 10 to 15 minutes per person. But if nobody's waiting, then we can go a little bit longer. But try to keep it good faith, because I'm going to try to keep it as good faith as humanly possible as well. But if you start getting personal, then I'll get personal too, okay? But I don't want to get personal. I don't want to get that point. Some people like the drama. I don't like the fucking drama, okay? I don't like that shit, okay? So, yeah, go ahead and just hit, click on the Zoom link if you want to populate in, and I will go in order of precedence. So, yep. Yep, I started the stream off, and then it crashed, which sucks. I hate the fact that it started off like that. But Starlink is like hit and miss with me sometimes. Because like I'll be sitting there like playing a game and then boom, it crashes on me. It's like, son of a bitch, dude. Seriously, why can't you just work for me just this one time? There are times where Starlink I'll go flawlessly for 2 hours, not an issue. Sometimes I'll even go for 3 hours, and flawlessly it'll stream it. But the second that sometimes I want to do like real content stuff, boom, it likes to crash on me. It's like, what the fuck, dude? Seriously. I mean, I would really love for them to get some broadband out here, but because like where I live, there's not a huge demand for it at this point. So I would like to see more of it. But because I live on the sticks and where I live on the side of the road, not a lot of people use the internet. So it's a bit tricky. I mean, there's got to be like I think that's up to the county commissioner to bring stuff like that up, which I do need to contact. But, you know, depending on who wins the county commissioner race this upcoming election, I really can't reach out to that. So, but anyway, yeah, just feel free to leave some comments. The more comments I leave on here, I mean, you're even welcome to challenge me here in the comment section. But if you want to do it like in real time instead of like populate the comment and I don't see it like right away, and then you ask like 6 or 7 questions and I can't like answer them all at once. If you're welcome to come on here in real time and ask me the questions, okay? Once again, try to keep the questions or like your reasons for voting for Trump between 2 to 4. But again, if it's just one person waiting in the queue, then yeah, you can go a little bit longer, okay? So, yep. Just waiting on one guest right now. And once again, there'll be some more people that are saying, hey, listen, I'm getting off of work a little bit late, so I'll probably be a little bit later than usual. So, but yeah, we'll go for about another hour. But I'm just giving people a chance to come on here and explain their reasoning. So it's only fair. Yes, the answer is yes. I am voting for Harris and Walz in this upcoming election. And people say, what? You like communism? Well, if you can name me a communist policy, so. All right. Order. I'm spending all day. They'll spend to their heart's content. Yeah. Well, the government does like to spend, so. And yeah, that's fair if you want to vote. But like the thing is, I heavily disagree because it was Donald Trump that actually, you know, voted against the bump stock. Like he voted for the bump stock ban. He signed that executive order for bump stock bans, essentially. The border, we have to remember that it was Donald Trump that built only, what, 53 miles of border wall? When he said he was going to build a big, beautiful wall and Mexico was going to pay for it. They didn't pay for it. Spending, yes. Every administration spends money on something. I mean, I think Trump's spending put us about $7.5 trillion deeper in debt. Half of that was about during the COVID pandemic, which that was necessary, especially the CARES Act. Then the American Rescue Plan under the Biden administration. That was essential to keeping the country alive. That's one of the reasons why we didn't go into a recession, also because of the Inflation Reduction Act. So that's really important to remember. Yeah, but yeah, people like to spend. The government likes to spend. If we want to cut spending, well, the question is, where are you going to cut the spending at? What are you going to prioritize first? Because I remember reading about like when Reagan talked about cutting spending. He cut spending to social programs, saying that people just need to pull themselves up by the bootstraps. But where did he invest a lot of the money into? Into the military. Now, listen, as somebody that spent 20 years in the Army, I can tell you, yes, spending money on the military is important. Your national defense is really essential. However, you also got to make sure that you take care of the people that are trying to enlist in the military, or the people that want to join the military, because you got to have proper infrastructure. You got to have proper schooling. You got to make sure that, you know, that the children have adequate educational supplies and whatnot, to make sure they have adequate teachers, to make sure that they're teaching and stuff like that. You also want to make sure that, you know, your citizens are, you know, we talk about like, oh, well, we don't want people living on the government dole. Okay, what does that exactly mean? I mean, you don't want people like living off the government. I mean, if I quit my job tomorrow, I would essentially be living off of my pension and my disability, which is, you could actually say, is living off the government. I mean, you got people that are living on Social Security right now. I mean, we don't want to take away those benefits from them, right? I mean, that's the way I'm looking at it. They're living off the government, essentially, even though they lived on it. So. Okay, that's an interesting point of view. You said he wasn't flying in illegals, at least, okay? So that's not really much of a thing. People saying, oh, they're flying in illegals. Well, we have to remember something. Does anybody remember when Greg Abbott actually flew, you know, migrants to Martha's Vineyard in the hope of like, oh, look what's going to happen? Those people got fed. They got taken care of. Martha's Vineyard's like, sure, we'll take care of you guys, you know. But it's so much like the governors like Ron DeSantis and Greg Abbott doing stuff like that as a means to own the libs. Now, I understand that there are people that are having concerns like, well, now we can't take care of them. Okay, well, this just means that we need to fix the immigration system as a whole. And just deporting people isn't solving the problem. It's kind of like saying we need to fix the prison system by sending more people to prison. That's not necessarily how that works, okay? You can't fix the prison industrial complex, which there is a prison industrial complex where some people get sent to prison for like, oh my God, this guy stole a Snickers. Let's give him 15 to 20 years for prison. I mean, I know it's just an insane hypothetical, but it has happened. I mean, there was a young man, because of improper bail reform, they said he stole a backpack that he didn't steal, but he still spent time at Rikers Island, and it affected him so much that he actually ended up, taking his own life, which is a bit fucked up if you ask me. I mean, seriously, you really can't expect to fix prison reform by sending more people to prison. That's not how that works. I mean, if you want to fix the immigration system, our immigration system is hella out of date. It's very, very much out of date. So if you're just now joining in here, the topic is, why are you voting for Donald Trump? If you want to chip into the conversation, you can either answer in the chat below, or you can click on the link below. It's the Zoom link, and your name will populate over here. I've got one person that says he's going to be coming on here. He's going to be defending his position, and we'll have a conversation about it. So, but again, just please keep it, within TOS. I don't need any ad hominem attacks is not a big deal, but please take away the slurs. No slurs, please. I don't want to have any slurs on here. I don't want to see that stuff. So, I also don't want even though my stream is very, very small, I don't want it to get, yeeted essentially. So let's have a conversation about this. I want to be as civil as possible because it's important for us to have these conversations. So, but yeah, I know that immigration is a topic that a lot of people feel like the Democrat Party has failed on. And that's a conversation we can definitely have, whether we did truly fail. But we have to remember something, that there was a bill that was brought forth that had bipartisan agreements. Now, there's a lot of Democrats that disagree with it. So, no guarantees on keeping it PG-13. You know me, Tyson. You know me. I tend to have a foul mouth at times. I'll try to keep it PG-13, but no guarantees. I have a tendency to, curse like a sailor. So it also depends on how the conversation goes. If somebody pops in and they're just automatically bad faith, then yeah, then it's gonna be on like Donkey Kong. But if you start like tossing around slurs and stuff like that, and I think you're just being bad faith, then I'm just gonna get them out of here because I've got no time for it. So, because I do want to understand why some people are voting for him. I mean, some people say it's economic reasons. Some people say, oh well, I just want him to own the libs, or I just want him to, I don't know. Even Trump doesn't even know what he's running for anymore. He says that he's running to save this country, but I think he's doing it to save himself personally. I mean, that's just my personal opinion. I truly do believe it, though. I truly do believe that he is running to save himself. Because the way I look at Donald Trump is I look at him as a guy that he cares more about himself. And if he could sacrifice, his followers to save himself, I have no doubt that he would. But the sad thing is, like, because I think it's like a cult following, I feel some of them would actually be willing to do so. Like, some of them would actually be willing to sacrifice themselves for Trump, which I think is bad. Like, that's just sad. Like that's, I don't like cult leadership. I don't like cult mentality. And if you want to say that the left is a cult, not necessarily, because we have to remember something. It's one thing to buy merchandise, but if you're specifically buying something, like if you're buying these trading cards that have Trump like dressed up as a soldier or something like that for like $99, or if you're saying things like Trump was sent to us by God, and only you truly believe that he was sent to us by God, essentially, and God gave us Donald Trump because he wants us to save this nation. I'm sorry, that's like you're about like a few steps away from like a true like Jim Jones Jonestown Tea style cult. I'm not saying he's gonna actually cause that. So yep. So Tyson says, I moved to Oregon as progressive. I have now lived here again since 2016. I just watched all the policies, agreed with failing Oregon. That's why I changed my opinion. Okay, well, some people, okay, so like I said, I was an independent, a staunch independent for many years. But But let's just say that, the Democratic Party and a lot of my points of view have always been somewhat very progressive. Like, I'm a firm believer in LGBTQ plus rights. I believe in, that the rights of marriage equality. Like, I believe, like, keep it at consenting human adults. That's it. Like, no, I don't think that people should marry their dog. People don't think people should marry a Ferris wheel. To me, that's just like, that's a bit too much for me. I truly do believe that, civil rights are very important. Civil rights are human rights across the board. There's no other way to look at that. I do believe that, workers and employees have the right to be taken care of by their employers. But the thing is, like, people say, "Oh my God, that's such a socialist thing." No, it's not. It's basic human rights. Like, why would you want to work for somebody that doesn't take care of you? Why would you want to work for somebody that doesn't make sure that you work in a safe working environment? Why would you want to work for somebody that just like mistreats you and just like talks down to you? And it's one thing for like the military, because like leaders in the military, even though yes, it can be demanding, and yes, there are times where you have to get into somebody's ass. That's just the nature of the beast. But if you don't take care of your people, they're going to remember that. And people are going to say, you know what? I don't like fucking working with that guy. But there's people that worked for me at one point that didn't fucking like me, and they still hate me to this day. Okay, fine. I accept that. That's going to happen. I own up to the fact that I've made a lot of mistakes over the years, That's just, man makes mistakes all the time. But when you're dealing with somebody that says, I don't make mistakes, and I don't make regrets, and I don't take ownership for my mistakes, that's a problem, okay? That is a huge problem. When you're a leader, you lead by example. Trump does not. Trump does not know how to lead by example. And I'm just being blatantly obvious. Donald Trump is the kind of guy where he demands your loyalty without offering any in return. I have a huge problem with that. I mean, that is... It's got to be problematic for anybody, especially if you believe that like leaders need to be like the kind of lead by example, or the kind that just say, listen, I want you to just do as I say, not as I do, kind of deal. It's just like, no, listen, if it's wrong when you do it, it's wrong when anybody does it. If you think that people should not shouldn't do these things, then you shouldn't do them either, right? And again, people make mistakes. Leaders, managers, what have you, have all made mistakes. It's whether you learn from those mistakes and try to build yourself into be a better leader, essentially. Is Joe Biden perfect? Has he been a perfect president? Of course not, okay? I've never said that Biden has been a perfect president. I know he's made mistakes in his entire presidency. I will definitely admit that. Definitely he's made mistakes. Do I think that he's better than Trump? Oh, by a clear freaking mile, for crying out loud. You can tell me, oh, well, what about this? Okay, yeah, we can talk about that, but again, the topic of discussion is, why are you voting for Trump? Biden's no longer a candidate anymore, okay? We don't need to talk about Biden anymore. But, like, the main topic of discussion is, why are you voting for Trump, okay? So, if people are just now tuning in, feel free to hit the description, go in the description and hit the Zoom link, and I will bring you in one at a time. So, sorry, my cat right next to me. So... Anyway, I appreciate everybody that's tuning in so far. And again, if you tuned in earlier and the stream crashed, I do apologize. Starlink has a tendency to do that. And again, if it does it again, I promise I will be back, but I will be ending the stream at 9 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. So that's all there really is to it. That's just the way the cookie crumbles. So, but yeah, I'm surprised. Like there are people that I posted this last night on Facebook, and I posted this on Twitter, or X platform. And I posted it in Discord links. So, yep. So, yeah. Still waiting on one guest to populate. Listen, I understand some people. So, another reason is because people in power right now have been rolling us into World War III. Trump didn't start any wars. That's another reason for me to be clear. I think he is despicable. All right. So, the argument is he didn't start any new wars. Neither did Biden. Biden didn't start any new wars either. And if Trump made the claim that he is the first president in 72 years to not start any new wars, he seems to forget that Ronald Reagan didn't start any new wars. Bill Clinton, technically, just like armed conflicts, but I don't know if he started any new wars. But like, if you want to talk about the Bosnia, Serbia situation, that can be debated whether that's like an actual war. It's definitely a conflict. That I've actually knew a guy that was in Bosnia. He's Bosnian. I served with him. But Jimmy Carter didn't start any new wars either. So we can make the argument as like starting new wars. But there were wars and conflicts that were going on that we were providing aid and arms to. Does anybody remember when the Saudis and the Yemenis were fighting against one another? We were providing arms and aid to the Saudis. So yeah, we were always fighting wars. So, but we were providing aid to the Saudis because we have an agreement with them. We consider them an ally of ours. And what they were committing in Yemen was essentially a genocide. I mean, there's no other way to look at that, but we were providing arms and aids to them. We can talk about like whether, if we want to talk about like whether anybody specifically started new wars. George Bush started new wars. You could say Barack Obama like helped overthrow like the Syrian government or something like that. He showed support regarding that. And there was a civil war that's still going on to this day between Bashar al-Assad and the rebels, essentially. That's also another bloody conflict. A lot of people have been displaced from that region, which is absolutely horrendously bad. That's a real hard one to kind of get into. But the thing is, it's as a friend of mine, Michael Hilliard. If you've never heard of Michael Hilliard, go onto his YouTube and type in the Redline Podcast. He's a geopolitical expert, and yeah, Libya as well. Okay, yeah, Libya as well. Anyway, he's a geopolitical expert, and he actually interviewed the former ambassador to the United States that was in Syria at the time. And he explained when it comes down to geopolitics, it's never like best case scenario, worst case scenario. It's merely when it comes to geopolitics, it's option A or option B. That's what it is with geopolitics. So that's kind of like how you need to look at every single scenario. And I had never ever thought about that before. When it comes to geopolitics, it really is option A or option B. And if you don't believe me, there's plenty of situations in history where the United States could have done this, but they chose to do that. We could talk about like the Hiroshima bombing and the Nagasaki bombing in World War II that ended World War II, right? Option A basically was we can invade the mainland. Russia will come in and invade from the north. We'll come in from the south, essentially. We'll invade from all different portions. Hundreds of thousands of people are going to die over a period of months, if not years, essentially. Lots of American troops are going to die. Japanese civilians are going to die. It's going to be an absolute disaster, essentially. Or we could just drop 2 bombs. Or drop 1 bomb. Now, we can either drop this bomb off an island to demonstrate this full source of our power, or we could drop it on a major urban center. You know, it's just option A or option B. We can argue whether they were good, bad, whatnot. It's just simply option A or option B. It's cold, it's heartless, it's calculating, but that's just like how geopolitics essentially works. We have to look at things from that point of view. Now, we can talk about like, war crimes. We can talk about, oh, well, this happened. Yeah, it did happen, but it's on a case-by-case basis. So, I mean, and, when people talk about like the fact that, oh my God, so many wars have started under Biden. Well, yeah, of course. But why did those wars start essentially? You can make the argument, oh, well, Putin didn't invade Ukraine when Trump was in office. Well, maybe he wasn't ready in time. We don't know these things. Like it struck a lot of people when Putin invaded Ukraine. Like when I talked with Michael about this, he was pretty sure that it wasn't going to happen, right? But again, we're all human. Nobody knows why he did it. Now, if Trump was in office and he invaded, what would be the argument then? But the fact of the matter is, he wasn't president when he invaded. So anyway. So yeah, anyway, if you are just now tuning in, just the question is, why are you voting for Trump? All right. And if you want to go in the description down below, click on the Zoom link and you are free to pop in at any point. And I will bring you in one at a time. And right now I'm waiting on a couple guests. So I'm waiting on one in particular. He's got to pop in, and then we're going to discuss why he's voting for Trump. So again, I'm trying to keep this as good faith as possible. So, yep. Hopefully everyone's enjoying their Saturday night. It's been a busy week for myself as well. Working full time. I like what I do though. I really do enjoy working. I mean, some people say, oh, nobody really enjoys working. I do. I actually do. I mean, if I can get to a point where I don't have to work anymore, I simply won't. But, whatevs. Yeah. Anyway, Anybody that's watching right now, do you have any questions or any concerns? Do you want to know why I'm voting for Kamala Harris or something like that? You want to hear those questions while I'm waiting on my guest. So, we'll let answer questions. And like I said, I mean, listen, I understand that some people have their reservations about Kamala Harris. I get it. Like, some might feel like, well, I don't like her record as just attorney. Okay, can you be specific about that? I mean, we can have that conversation. Can you be specific about what you mean by that? Essentially, like, what exactly did you not like about her? I mean, if you're the party of law and order, do you not like the fact that she enforced the law, or that some people went to prison when they didn't need to? I mean, you can be specific. I mean, I'm all ears about it. So, but you can also ask, oh well, wait a second, why is it that Because at one point I was a little skeptical about her as well. So started war with Iran, but Israel will start anyway. Jeez, I don't know. I hope not. I don't know, and I really, really hope that there's no war started with Iran right now, because that's one war that I don't want us to go into. I don't want any more wars to happen. I mean, this is the first period in history where we actually don't have, okay, we do have people that are in combat zones, if you want to put it that way. We still got troops in certain parts of the world that could be considered hazardous zones, but like all-out war, we don't need it, because our country is almost 300 years old, and since then we've only known about 16 years of peace. We didn't see peace under Trump. I mean, if anybody thinks we saw peace under Trump, no, we didn't. Okay, yeah, you got probably bring up the Abraham Accords. Okay, remember something: the Abraham Accords was between Israel, Oman, the UAE, and oh, jeez, the UAE, Oman, and oh god, I can't remember. I'm drawing a complete blank. Let me look it up real quick. Let me look. Okay. Abraham Accords. All right. Israel, UAE, Bahrain, Sudan, and Morocco. Okay. These are basically all countries. Nobody was at war with each other. There was no conflict. Okay. This is my cat. This is my studio cat, Little Dash, my little baby girl. So she stays in here all the time. She guards my studio equipment. So if she pops up and makes an appearance, just be sure to say hello to Dash. But anyway, the Abraham Accords really didn't do anything. As a matter of fact, it would have been really significant if they could bring Palestine to the table, because that's the big conflict that's going on right now. Now, it could be argued that what happened when they moved the embassy from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem is what could have been like the straw that broke the camel's back. Now, I'm not saying that's what happened, but it can be argued that that's what happened, essentially. Now, if a peace agreement happened between Israel and Palestine, that would be significant for the entire Middle East, because it is a fucking nightmare right now. It is an absolute catastrophe, as I put it really. So, and it's bad. It really is. There's no other way to look at it, though. And, the reason why sometimes I usually don't talk about it is just because, like, it's such a controversial topic that some people are like, oh, wait a second, does that mean you're anti-Israel? No. What I am anti is I'm anti-Zionism. I'm completely against what happened. For the record, what happened last October the 7th, when Hamas entered Israel and slaughtered 1,200 people, innocent people, and took 200 people hostage, I denounce that 100%. That is awful. That is barbarism. But the response to it is not any better, for crying out loud. I mean, there are aid workers that have been killed in airstrikes. And you could say, well, blame Hamas for that. It's hard for me to blame Hamas when Israel's the one doing it. Now listen, soldiers sometimes have to make tough decisions in war. Some of these decisions, I don't think that they're really tough. Like when you've got people that are waving banners saying, listen, I surrender, and they're still getting shot. That is awful. That is horrible. That is a war crime. I don't give a shit what anybody fucking says, okay? I mean, it's absolutely atrocious. Like, Israel's response does not justify, and it's completely lopsided right now. And listen, I am not sympathetic to Hamas, but the people of Palestine that are being killed ruthlessly. Like, there are people that are being told, move to this part of Palestine. They do, and it still gets bombed. There are people that are being told to move this side of Palestine. It still gets bombed. There are people that are aid workers that said, listen, we need to bring in more aid for these people. And they get hit. I mean, it's not okay. I don't care who does it, whether it's Hamas, whether it's the IDF. I don't care if it's like, other insurgents. I don't care who does it. You know, when people are being attacked, when people are being slaughtered needlessly, it's not okay. I mean, and I know people are, oh, well, you know, well, what about World War II? We're not talking about World War II, okay? In the world of social media, we see what happens. We are seeing war crimes in real time. And yes, I will definitely concede that war crimes have been done by Hamas. I am not going to deny that whatsoever. I think what Hamas did is terrible. And, you know, like Mehdi Hassan, who is like one of the best journalists we have right now in this country, whether it's the UK or the United States, he denounces Hamas all the time. But he is, as a Muslim man, expected to denounce all the attacks of Hamas, which he has done. But whenever he says, well, wait a second, why is it I'm expected to denounce Hamas, but whenever I ask people to denounce Israel, they don't do it? Again, we are not condoning what happened on October 7th last year. We have the rules of engagement. You know, respond with force, with adequate force, essentially. That's something that we stand behind. That's something that we follow through upon. This is something that we have to, and you know, war is hell. There are some tough decisions to be made. But if you see somebody like all openly saying they are not openly a threat, you don't shoot them, for Christ's sake. I mean, it's not that hard. You know what I mean? Just, and we're bound by these because, like, if you're willing to justify doing it to one group of people, you can justify doing it to anybody. And we can't let ourselves be, you know, blinded by this fact. I mean, and again, you know, Kamala Harris and Donald Trump have both said, you know, Israel has a right to defend itself. But only Kamala Harris has said that, you know, the people of Palestine deserve freedom. They deserve freedom from Hamas. Donald Trump has said no such thing. And as a matter of fact, Donald Trump says that, you know, Biden is not helping Netanyahu enough. And there's a reason as to why the Muslim community is really pissed off with this administration. And I understand it. Listen, I'm not going to tell them, no, you know, your concerns are unfounded. No, I get it. I understand why they're upset. They have every right to be, and they have every reason to be, because they feel like their voices are not being heard right now. And I get that, okay? And listen, if you have a problem with the Muslim community, let me ask you, how much interaction do you have with a Muslim person? Because I've met many Muslim people, and there are so many of them that are good-hearted, loving people. They love their families. They love and you know, some of them have escaped persecution. Some of them have escaped the worst things you could possibly imagine. Like when I was in Iraq, there were stories I was told. You know, let me take a beer real quick because I gotta wet my whistle. There were stories I was told in Iraq about the way Uday and Qusay Hussein, who were the sons of Saddam Hussein, these guys were very sadistic. Like, they loved to torture innocent people. One thing that they were known for doing is every time the Iraqi soccer team would lose a match, they would take the soccer players and they would lay them down on the table, and then they would take canes and they would beat their feet with canes. And said, this is going to help you run faster. Obviously, that didn't work. But they did it just for the sheer pleasure in being sadistic about that. That's awful. There's a story I was told about, like, a married couple. Well, Uday and Qusay crashed the wedding, and they kidnapped the bride and groom. They forced the groom to watch as his bride was raped multiple times. They killed him by throwing him off the top of the palace, and from what I understand, they fed her to the lions they kept. Yes, this is awful. This is sadistic stuff. This is what evil men do, essentially. So we can talk about, like, well, you know, we shouldn't have gone into Iraq. Oh, well, you know, listen, we can argue about whether we should or should not have gone into Iraq in the first place. There are many interpreters that I know that are now living in the United States because we invaded. I'm not saying the ends justify the means. I'm simply saying that now they have found a life here in the United States. But, you know, when I'm looking at, like, what's going on in Israel and Palestine, like, Westside Tyler and I did a one-on-one about 2 weeks ago, and we had a good conversation about this. And we talked about how when Israel planted explosives within pagers, and when those pagers went off, people were wounded, some people were killed, innocent people were killed, but some bad guys were killed as well. If that was to happen to our country, we would not be able to deal with that. We would lose our fucking minds over this. We truly would. And that's just truth. That's just the fact of the matter of these things. And this is why, you know, if one group doesn't do it, right? If one group does it, and it's looked at as strategic. If the other side does it and it's looked at as an act of terrorism, that's some blatant hypocrisy right there. So, anyway, for the people that are just now tuning in, the top of this discussion is, why are you voting for Trump? Waiting on one guest right now. He said he'd be about 20 minutes. I understand if he's delayed or something like that. It happens. I mean, I'm not going to fault anybody for this. I'm going to be doing this stream until about 9 o'clock, and then I'll be shutting it down. So far, I have not had too many fish. So the only person is my old friend from high school, Tyson. Good guy, really nice guy. He's given us reasons as to why he's voting for Donald Trump. So, and you know, I respectfully disagree, but that's okay. Remember, we have to understand something. Where I live at is a very conservative town, and there are people like I took part in a parade, and the Democratic Party was bringing up the very, very back part of the parade, essentially. And I was with Clint St. Mosley, who's running for the 9th Congressional District against Lisa McClain. Awesome guy. I actually did an interview with him on 101. If you want to go back into my playlist, go into the 101 portion and look for the interview with Clint St. Mosley. Excellent guy. Really awesome dude. Him and I had a great conversation. One of the biggest things we talked about was PBMs, pharmacy benefit managers. That's a really, really important topic that I really wish people knew more about, because it's criminal what some PBMs are able to get away with. But anyway, I'm getting off topic again. But anyway, I walked down the middle of the street, and I was holding the banner, and a lot of people were booing us. They were heckling us. They were calling me a traitor and stuff like that, you know, which I'm used to. I'm used to the cruelty. I'm used to people threatening me. I'm used to people saying that they would find me and, you know, do horrible things to me. It happens all the time. It comes with the territory. When you're a public figure on the internet, and I'm not saying it's okay, when you're a public figure on the internet, no matter how big your platform, people are going to make threats to you. It happens. Sometimes I've done it as well. Not my best moment. I admit that, you know. Sometimes I get all up on my fifis, and I get, you know, especially when I've had, you know, a few things to drink, I tend to just lob insults and start threatening people, and I should really stop doing that. So, but it's just, the internet is a cruel place. There people will say awful things. People will dox you. People will like swat you, and so thankfully hasn't happened to me yet. So, but where I live at, it's very red. Okay, it's a very, very red part of the state I live in, and you know, people are booing, they were heckling, and they were saying I was a traitor and I have no right to. And it's just like, listen, I don't. There are some people that I will label as traitor simply because I truly believe that if you are willing to betray all your morals and values, if you are willing to just, if a guy tells you, do you support me or do you support the country and the Constitution? That's a problem. You should not throw your support behind anybody that makes you make that decision. Trump has. He's been very, very clear about that. He's been very, very clear. Like towards the end of his last administration in 2020, right before, like after he lost the election, right? Cassidy Hutchinson, in her book, Enough, all right? Now, you can say, oh, well, she's a liar. Well, okay, guess what? No one's been able to counter her so far. I would say she's been pretty honest because she's received death threats. She's had people come after her and dox her and such like that. But she has talked about how John McEntee, the former aide for Donald Trump, was going around asking people, hey, I need you to sign this loyalty pledge right here to Donald Trump. You should not be okay, listen, if you have to force people to sign a loyalty pledge, that means you did not earn the loyalty of your people. If you have to force people to respect you, if you have to force people to be loyal to you, you did not earn it. It's that simple. There are people that earn respect and loyalty based upon who they are. And listen, if you don't respect me for my opinion, fine. Okay, that's fine. We can agree to disagree. If you don't like, that's entirely up to somebody. That's completely subjective. I'm not going to force you to respect me, okay? That's the difference. I feel like respect is to be earned, not forced upon people. I mean, obviously, if you go to work for somebody and this person you work for is kind of a dick, then yeah, you got to do what you're told, but, you know, you always have the option of quitting, essentially. But make sure you got something lined up afterwards. You know, and I know I have a tendency to ramble, but it's just how I am, so. But, anyway. Yep, I got about 30 minutes left before I close this stream down, so if anybody wants to jump in, hey, the gauntlet has been thrown. You are free to come in here. You are free to come into this chat, and we will have a conversation. We will talk about why you are voting for Donald Trump. Why are you voting for Donald Trump? Can anybody give me a reason as to why to? So far, my friend Tyson Lowen has given me his reasons, and we've just kind of left it at that. Waiting on a couple guests right now for them to populate and pop in here, so we'll see how that goes. So, In the event that this stream does crash, it's gonna restart. And then what I'm gonna do is I'm actually gonna splice all the videos together to make sure that there's consistency. And I'm just gonna take out the parts of, you know, oh yeah, the stream crashed. I'm just gonna put it all together and then I'm just gonna re-upload it from then on. I'll re-upload it tomorrow. So. Anyway, so if anybody wants to jump in, the gauntlet has been thrown. Everybody can express their points of view. So. I hate having asthma. It sucks. It's the pits. It's the worst thing ever. Running crazy late. I'll be on in 10 minutes. So, I'm a truck driver, Tyson. I work. I'm not gonna say which company I work for, but I am a truck driver. After I retired out of the army, I got into trucking. I got my CDL. I love it. I actually do love being a truck driver because here's something that people don't know about truck driving. Okay, if truck drivers across the country stopped driving for 3 days, the entire country would be brought to a freeze. The entire country would just shut the fuck down because after about 3 days, the supply chain would just come to a grinding halt. And the best delivery I ever made was the first delivery I ever made. Okay, and I was with my trainer, and what we did was we picked up a load from Atlanta, Georgia, and then we drove it to Memphis, Tennessee. It was an Old Dominion terminal. It was an Old Dominion cargo truck that I was hauling, right? So it took me about 20 minutes to back in because my first time actually making a delivery and backing into a into a dock. And then the doors were open and everything. Well, anyway, as soon as I backed into the dock, everybody was unloading, and I found out it was medical supplies to deliver. Now, like usually on something called a bill of lading, not everybody knows what you're carrying unless it's very specific. It will say it on your bill of lading or your paperwork and stuff, right? So the reason why I like that is because I realized that I was a part of the logistics of keeping this country moving. And as a truck driver, I can definitely tell you that truck drivers are the heartbeat of America. It's a really tough, demanding job. Like when people say, you want to talk about a grind? Being a truck driver is a fucking grind. I tell you that much. It really is, Tyson. Trucking is the backbone of America. But I consider it the heartbeat of America. But I consider rail workers, people that work the freight trains, as the blood vessels of America. Because we need the freight system. I think freight accounts for about, which is like trains, accounts for about 30% of our logistics across the country. I could be off, but I'm not going to look that up right now because I'm on a roll. So, but it's really, really, really important that people focus that truck drivers are so important. And there are so many people that are in this country, that are on work visas that are truck drivers. I had a co-driver when I worked at a trucking company. Really awesome guy, originally from Ethiopia. I helped teach him some English. I taught him some slang. I mean, he spoke good English, don't get me wrong. He spoke really good English, but he wanted to learn slang terms because I talked a lot of slang, but that's just how I am sometimes. But I gave him a chance to kind of express, learn to say some things. Really awesome guy. Him and I got along great. And I even had him hang out with some friends of mine when we were down in Georgia. And he liked the fact that I knew so many good people, and I think I it's nice to know that I made him feel comfortable and made him feel welcome and stuff like that. But we had a great time. We were very cohesive with one another. And I remember I was driving in Oregon. It was wintertime, and I hated it because it was the first time I heard to put snow chains. And I tell you what, putting snow chains on four wheels on a vehicle is one thing. When you have to do it on an 18-wheeler, that is a pain in the fucking ass. Oh my god, that is horrendously bad. So. But yeah, I really do enjoy doing trucking. Getting my CDL was probably one of the best decisions I had ever made, especially when I retired out of the Army, because I honestly did not know what I wanted to do when I got out. Because one of the jobs they had offered was a canine trainer. And when I went into to do the canine training, I was like, well, it sounds interesting, but I don't think there's much of a demand because Claire and I already knew, my wife, Claire and I, we already knew we were going to be moving to Michigan, So I didn't know if there was any real demand for where I was moving to. And I wanted to make sure that I picked a job where I knew it was going to take care of her and I. Especially considering the fact that we were looking for a house to get. Because we had already found a house. We'd already pretty much wanted to put an offer in, and they accepted our offer outright. And we wanted to make sure that we I got into a career that I could do that could sustain us. And I can tell you what, truck driving is good, but it takes a certain person to do it. And it takes a certain kind of person to be able to deal with the solitude. Now, if you hate people like I do sometimes, I mean, it's true. Like, let's put it this way. I'm a pretty chill guy. Tyson knows me. I'm a chill guy. I'm a very chill driver, okay? Like, he was surprised when I got my first speeding ticket when I was 16 years old, when we were in high school together. And I got a speeding ticket for doing 68 in a 55, okay? But those cops in Oregon, they're kind of dicks at times. They were big-time dicks as well. But he was surprised by this, right? Because I drive like a grandma. Well, Tyson, I still drive like a grandma. Everybody knows I drive like a grandma. I drive the speed limit all the time. But the thing is, my tolerance for bad drivers has decreased significantly across the board. Like, I hate bad drivers. I hate people that are awful drivers. It absolutely infuriates me, like how some people are just like, I remember when I used to drive into Chicago every day, right? One of the companies I drove for, I drove in and out of Chicago every day. See, look, Tyson's laughing about this because he knows it's true. Everybody knows this is true. I'm a grandma driver, okay? I drive the speed limit everywhere I go. But anyway, I used to drive in and out of Chicago all the time. And it was 3 o'clock in the morning. I was getting ready, or 3 or 4 o'clock, I can't remember. But anyway, it was like 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning, and I was getting ready to head into one of the BNSF, which BNSF is one of the rail companies, which is shit. Oh crap. Okay, now just so people understand. Okay, do google.com BNSF. Okay, that is stand for. I know it's not important, but if I don't say it, it's gonna drive me fucking crazy. Okay, so Burlington Northern Santa Fe. That's what it stands for, okay? Burlington Northern Santa Fe, okay? So that basically talks about like all of the terminals they go in and out of, okay? So that was one of the rail yards I used to drive in and out of all the time. And it's 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning, and I'm about 2 or 3 miles away from my exit. And there's an exit coming up on the right-hand side. I'm in the right-hand lane. There's a car in the left-hand fucking lane. And this asshole, at the last possible second, swerves 3 lanes and cuts me off at the last second. I'm like, you son of a bitch, honestly. You son of a bitch. I was so angry. Like, I literally cursed out loud because it's so enraging when people do stuff like that. So my tolerance level for bad drivers, it's situations like that where I believe that Thanos had a good point when he snapped his fingers, because bad drivers like that are atrocious. Like, they infuriate the absolute hell out of me, honestly. So I know I kind of go off on a tangent. That's not the topic of discussion. But again, I'm waiting on guests to come in. So I'll talk about whatever I want to because it is my stream. But I do have less than 30 minutes left. So if I only have one guest, I only have one guest. That's fine. I don't care. Because I am stopping at 9 o'clock. And again, if you are interested in hearing more about Jake is one of the guys that's going to be coming on. Go to his YouTube channel, Project VO Pod. He's in the right here. Just click on his name if you haven't seen it, right? And feel free to go hit like, subscribe, share. Him and I don't agree on anything on politics, but again, the reason why Jake and I talk to one another is because we both love heavy metal music and we both like football, okay? Him and I are not going to agree on anything on politics whatsoever, but that's okay. That's all right. You know, I mean, him and I are not going to agree on any of that shit, but, you know, because we have the same love for heavy metal, we have the same love for football and stuff like that. Both of our teams are not doing as well. He's a Titans fan, and I'm a Seahawks fan. Right now, we're 3-3, so hopefully we get better. So, but anyway, if you are interested, go down to the description below, all right? And then you'll click on it. I'll let you in. You'll populate over here, and I'll bring it in one at a time, okay? One at a time. So, we'll see how it goes. I haven't seen Glenn. I was hoping Glenn Lawrence was going to pop in, but maybe something happened. I don't know. I'm not going to suggest, oh my God. No, he didn't bail. I don't think he bailed. Maybe he just didn't see the stream or something like that, or he had other things to do. It's okay. I mean, it's not required. I just gave this opportunity for about 2 hours to give people an opportunity to defend why they're voting for Trump. So, but Jake says he will be popping in here. So as long as the stream does not crash, I'm okay. All right. As long as the stream does not crash, please don't. God damn it, Starlink stick, keep it together. God damn it. Okay, so. But anyway, but yeah, that's basically what I got going on right now. So, yep, viewership goes up and down. That's fine. It's okay. So, But yeah, I was hoping more people would be popping in here because I popped it all over. I dropped links on X, I dropped links on Facebook, I dropped links on Discord in multiple pages. I don't know. Maybe I'm just not interesting enough. I don't know. Okay, fine, fuck it, whatever. I'm still gonna keep doing content creation. For people say, oh, you shouldn't do content creation, kiss my ass. I'm gonna keep doing it. Why? Because I enjoy doing it. Okay, I don't even care if I don't get rich off of it. That's not my goal. You know, I would love to win the lottery someday. That'd be pretty awesome. That'd be pretty sweet, honestly. So, because I know I'm never gonna have like the same kind of charisma as some content creators. I get that. I've got the charisma of a fucking piece of celery. I get it. And yes, I can say that about myself. I can do the self-deprecating humor. It's just how I am. So, oh, Glenn Lawrence, there he is. Okay, and he's joining. All right. How you doing, Glenn? Can you hear me?
Check, check, check. Can you hear me?
I can hear you just fine. How are you doing today, sir?
I am doing well. I'm sorry, I don't have my camera on. I'm
No
doing
worries.
a bunch of stuff on the computer right now, and it's like dragging ass.
It's all right. It's not required. So yeah. Before you actually get started, why don't you go and tell everybody a little bit about yourself?
Who I am Glenn Lawrence, uh, veteran, former bodybuilder, former youth pastor, actor, producer, in the independent market in Hollywood, and I run a podcast
There you go. If you
where
want
I
to,
probably talk about things that you disagree with very much.
that's all right. You know, we don't all have to agree. I mean, it'd be a boring world if we all agreed, right? So
It'll be really boring.
very boring. So all
But
right,
sometimes boring is good. Just saying.
it can be sometimes. It really kind of depends on the scenario, though. So,
As long as it's not sex, we're good. Right?
yeah, like because like when people say is like if you have boring sex, then that's a problem. So,
I
so
mean, yeah, really
yeah,
bad.
really really bad. So all right, so go ahead and explain to me. So why are you voting for Donald Trump?
I think that Trump, if you remove COVID out of the equation, because like we go say like that was any president that would have been faced with COVID would probably have to make the same choices when it came to the deficit and all that stuff. But when you remove that out of the equation, he did everything that he said he was going to do. Um, Job market was doing great. We had the lowest unemployment rate. Um, we weren't in any wars, and I think overall the economy and the in our not only our allies but our enemies also respected us more. I mean, he demanded, NATO to pay their fair share, which is good. Um, so I didn't really have a problem with his policies or anything that he implemented. I think he did a great job at putting Roe versus Wade back to the states. I think that was where it's always should have been. I Other than his rhetoric that he says, I don't really see a reason why he shouldn't, like, why we wouldn't have trust in him. I know when they said that, like, oh, Trump's tax plan or is going to make the country go bankrupt. They said that last time too, and we had a 1 point, I think 7 or something like that inflation rate until until after COVID. So I mean, there really wasn't really much anything that negative that I could say that he did policy wise. And I don't blame Jan 6 on him. You know what I'm saying? Like I know a lot of people on the left try to do that. Um I after speaking with somebody who was in prison, a friend of mine who was in prison for Jan 6, um I have more understanding and insight of what really went down there than I did before. And so I really don't see any reason why he shouldn't be president.
All right. So when it comes down to January 6th, right? So Donald Trump for months was talking about like how the election was rigged and he still hasn't conceded the fact that he lost the election. But if Donald Trump didn't say about how the election was stolen, talk about like how the election was rigged, if he didn't say any of those things, do you think January 6th probably would have happened?
So knowing what I know, um, I think it was inevitable. And I think people put way too much credit on Trump as the cause, as instead of other actors that were involved.
Like who? Like what actors involved? Do you think?
Um, how about a couple like three-letter agencies?
Okay. So, like the three-letter
Um,
agencies you think were involved, like in orchestrating
it,
January 6th?
well, no, not orchestrating it.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Possibly instigating it. There was like Antifa and Proud Boys there, or like groups like that were also in the midst of the crowd, and we all know that both sides of those are bad actors, right? So I think, like for my buddy who was there, he went inside to use the restroom. He Through the door that was open, not the door that was broken in with the window, actual open door that people were going in and out of.
Mm-hmm.
He went and used the bathroom, walked around a little bit, you know, walked out, and then he ends up doing 3 years in prison. Like, so hearing what he said in the videos that he showed me, I don't think, I can't say it was, Trump's, fault. I think people wanted to blame him, and they used him as an easy scapegoat because of his rhetoric.
Well, here's the reason why I'm going to disagree, because there are people that also spent time in prison. They said they went there because of Donald Trump. And the reason why I asked you, if Donald Trump didn't spread all these lies saying like how the election was stolen, because that was like the big hype up to January 6th. He said that Mike Pence was going to had the power to return to the states, which he did not. January 6th is simply just merely it's a ceremonial of just like certifying the electors essentially. But the reason why I asked that is because every single time that question gets asked, it's like, oh no, people don't really like answer it. But the reason I asked it is because if Donald Trump did not say anything, if he conceded that he lost the election, I don't think January 6th would have happened. None of this really would have been a controversy. But I feel like because he hyped it up, and for 3.5, almost 4 hours, he sat there and watched as people were entering the Capitol. His daughter and other members of his staff were coming in. It's like, Mr. President, you've got to stop this. And finally,
Okay.
when he finally said, "Okay, time to go home. We need to have peace," they dispersed. I mean, to me,
Yeah.
that's very significant.
Okay. So let's use your same logic here. Okay. Then can we say that Kamala Harris and Joe Biden are responsible for the three assassination attempts made on Donald Trump this election?
No, because they denounced it outright.
Um, no, they denounced it after the first assassination, but all their rhetoric prior to, he's gonna ruin the country, he's the enemy of the country, blah blah, like our country's gonna be destroyed because of him. He's gonna make it a dictatorship. All the shit that they have said about him, he needs to be stopped. The MAGA are a bunch of terrorists. Like all the shit that they said. You're saying that none of that rhetoric could contribute to these guys taking it upon themselves and become vigilantes.
Well, the thing is, we still haven't, because everyone tried to say that the shooters are tied to like Antifa or they're Democrats. They're not. They're registered Republicans. So we still don't know that like the motive behind the first shooter. The second shooter is a guy that did vote for Trump, but he says, I truly believe that you could have done better. But they all, Kamala Harris and Joe Biden have specifically called Donald Trump and said, asked him, "Are you okay?" But the thing is, like by that same metric, when Paul Pelosi was attacked, Donald Trump didn't apologize. He actually doubled down and he even joked about that. That's kind of screwed up, don't you
I
think?
I I, I mean, that's a whataboutisms what you're doing right now.
Well, that's what she just did with me as well. I mean, like we're talking about January 6th, and now you're talking about like the assassination attempts. That's also what about it, isn't it? You there? Oh, did Zoom freeze up? Hello.
And act. Oh, did you did? Did you hear me? Am I
No,
here?
no, I didn't hear you. It froze up. Go ahead.
Okay. So you're telling me that you don't believe that any of the rhetoric that they said prior to the first assassination attempt could have factored in or contributed. There's a lot of reports that say like, oh yes, the guy was a registered, you know, um, Republican, but he gave to the Democratic Party when for campaigning. Like, sure, he was registered Republican, but it doesn't mean that he was a Republican. And there was reports that the first guy was LGBT, emphasis on the T. Um, so I mean, there's that. Then there's the second guy, uh, who was a known three-letter agency asset that came out, right? He was working with Ukraine, from what the news has been reporting. So, I mean, come on. Like, you're saying that the rhetoric that they said had nothing or could not have contributed whatsoever.
I'm simply saying
And
that.
if you're going to say that rhetoric is not their rhetoric prior to the first assassination is not motivating enough to cause someone to want to take it upon themselves to do the assassination attempt, then you also have to say Trump's rhetoric was also not inflammatory enough to cause someone to be motivated to do January 6th.
Well, and here's the reason why I'm saying it's not the same. Because, for example, like I said, Joe Biden and Kamala Harris denounced the attack outright. Donald Trump didn't,
After,
yeah, but Donald Trump did not denounce what happened on January 6th. As a matter of fact, he's even told his chief of staff, he's even told Kevin McCarthy that maybe these people care more about the election being stolen than you have. Donald Trump deliberately lied about the election being stolen. That led to January 6th. This is what led to like Capitol police officers being assaulted. And he's even on
how
record.
many? Okay, how many? And did you also know about all the tweets that he sent out that Twitter blocked? I mean, like they released that information too. Elon Musk did that when he took over.
But he's
So
go ahead.
like 20 minutes after, he when he got word that there was, something going on at the Capitol, he immediately, made started tweeting.
Mm-hmm.
No, go home, peaceful protests, you know, he wasn't inflaming anything. As soon as he heard it, he was trying to, simmer it down. So with that being said, it's like it took us years until Elon got in there to know this information. And when they released it, they kind of swept it under the rug.
You talk about like the tweet says like, "Hey, don't assault the police, the Capitol Police, stuff like that."
Yeah,
That
and
that
telling
you
them
know.
to go home. Um, you know, Peaceful protest. If you're gonna protest, do it peacefully. Um, like all that stuff. Like he wasn't inflaming anything. He was anything trying to calm it down.
When he was at the ellipses, I remember him also specifically saying, "Is like if you don't fight like hell, you're gonna lose your country." Rudy Giuliani also came out and says we have to have a trial by combat. That's pretty inflammatory. That sounds like pretty serious stuff, honestly. That sounds like when people took that very seriously, and let alone the fact that there are records of people that had weapons and they actually had the metal detectors. And Donald Trump said, "Take away those metal detectors. They're not here for me. These are my people." Essentially, I mean, there's records of people there being armed, and once again, people that were assaulting police officers. And he hasn't denounced the attacks on the police officers. He says, "Hey, don't harm our police officers." But there's records of Donald Trump doing consistent like pre-records of saying, "Hey, listen, the election was stolen. Like this was a fair election." He's like, "Listen, I'm not going to say that. Can I just say something else?" Essentially, like he went through like multiple takes because he refuses to denounce. He's even talking about releasing these very same people who assaulted our Capitol Police officers. I mean, I'm sorry, like that doesn't sound like a peaceful thing. If he's willing to release the very same people and pardon the same people that committed these horrendous crimes, I mean, that's the way I'm looking at it.
Again, if you're gonna say that, like, if Trump is the one that caused everybody to, you know, if you're gonna say that Trump is the one that caused all those people to act, then you have to be willing to consider that the rhetoric that the Democrats have been using could have also caused or motivated those shooters to act, those assassination attempts to happen.
Uh, the reason I'm gonna say no to that is because so far we don't know the
Because it,
motivations behind them.
well, wouldn't you say like it's easy to say no to that because it fits your worldview or it fits your argument? Like
Well,
I'm willing to, I'm trying to give you I'm
mhm.
trying to meet you in the middle here. If you're saying okay, Trump did it, motivated for Jan 6, okay, I will give you that possibility. Like I was like, okay, sure, I can see that as a possibility. People could hear something, especially if they're inspired by an individual or they trust this individual. People could take what they say and act on it. Sure, no problem. I I've seen it happen in other ways before. People can be manipulated by other people that way. No problem whatsoever. Um, Now do I think all of them were? No, but maybe there could have been a few. All right.
Mhm.
I'm willing to concede that, but you're not even willing to concede that the rhetoric that has been spewed about this guy from the left could have caused anybody to decide to take it upon themselves and um, take matters in their own hands.
So the first
And to
guy,
me, that's just like it just doesn't make sense to me. It's like you're not willing to even say that that's a possibility.
if there was evidence to come out for it, that's one thing. But so far, I haven't seen any. Like the one donation to Act Blue isn't sufficient evidence. The second guy, we still haven't heard like his entire motivations at this point. Now, I don't want to spend too much time because like I do want to get to some of your other points essentially because like I don't want to spend too much time if that's okay. But like the second guy, we still haven't learned all of his motivations. Now, the first guy, they're saying that like yeah, we heard about this guy for about a year, and yeah, maybe they should have cracked down upon him, which I am in full agreement upon. Excuse me, but as of right now, I can't say about like whether this rhetoric because it's not the first time that somebody has been accusing like a president because they said the same thing about Barack Obama being Hitler essentially. They said the same thing about George Bush essentially being Hitler.
Who painted Obama as anything near Hitler? I
Oh, the
don't think
conservative base.
Obama was. I don't recall that.
I do
I
definitely
I,
do.
I mean,
Yeah, well, here's the reason why is because when Obama was, and again, I don't want to get like too much
because
further into it.
I voted for Obama during that
Yeah,
time.
I never
Like
did.
I voted for Obama the first time. I didn't vote for him the second time. Um,
Mhm. Yeah, I voted for Mitt Romney in 2012 myself. So, but
no, so we swapped.
yeah, well, here's the thing. Like, I was a registered independent for many years, and only in 2020 was the first time I voted Democrat. So, but anyway, I didn't want to get. But like when Obamacare came out, they were always talking about like how Obama is going to bring on death panels and stuff like that. They compared him to Hitler and stuff like that. It was completely ridiculous as far as I'm concerned. So, but like the reason why I can't really make the same comparison because many people like there are a bunch of idiots on the left that cheered the assassination attempt, and I denounce that 100%. Like Jake asked me this, Jake Var, who's in Project VO he asked me, "Do I denounce this?" And I said, 100%. I definitely do. Nobody should be taking attempts like this, no matter what. Even if you don't like Donald Trump, this is not the way to do it. I just would rather he gets beat in the polls than somebody take attempts on his life. And the fact that Joe Biden and Kamala Harris came out outright and said, "Listen, this is not okay. Don't make attempts on his life. This is
Well,
not
Joe
okay."
Biden didn't come out outright. It took him several hours before he even came out. And when he came out, he was, there was like a very lackluster, speech. And they asked him, how's Trump doing? And they're like, well, I haven't heard from him yet.
Mhm.
You know, like let's just come on. Like, they were even just like, they want me to repeat some of the rhetoric that they were saying.
Oh, go ahead.
Uh, Trump is a threat to the Constitution. The Biden administration is here to defend the First Amendment.
Mhm.
Um, like Trump is works with Russia, supports Russia. He is Hitler, right? Trump is going to make himself a dictator, um,
Well, he did
which
say
is not true.
he did say he wants to be a dictator on day one.
Well, I think everybody knows that you can't. Like, there's no. We have three forms of government there, or three groups of government that
Mhm.
act as a checks and balance. So there would be no way that even if any president did, Obama said that he would do his third term in the basement on the phone, and he'll just have someone else be president. You don't remember that? He made that joke on
Ah,
it was
well,
one of the late night shows. So I
well,
mean,
kind of going into that, like I'm pretty sure Obama, like he says like witticism stuff like that, but Trump has doubled down on it multiple times. Like even Sean Hannity tried to say you don't actually mean that. It's like, oh yes I do, and like we're gonna like drill baby drill, and we're gonna like deport millions of people. But here's the reason why I have a problem with what with Trump saying like he's gonna be a dictator, because he actually said on True Social that a massive fraud of this type, talking about election fraud and magnitude, allows for the termination of all rules, regulations, and articles, even those found in the Constitution. That's troubling to me. I mean, why would anybody say to terminate the rules and regulations of the Constitution when there's no, because like voter fraud is statistically irrelevant. Like there is no other way to look at this, but he's still insisting that there's enough voter fraud that determined the outcome of the last election, which there wasn't.
well, you don't think time to put Trump in a bullseye is inflammatory rhetoric? What's a bullseye?
Yeah, and Joe Biden said that was wrong for him to say that. He shouldn't have said that.
And then he later on dismissed it. The large criticism telling Holt that it merely was a figure of speech and saying Trump is one of the most mainstream violent or has the one most mainstream violent rhetoric. He said, I didn't say crosshair, I meant bullseye.
Hmm.
I meant to focus on him,
And,
focus on what he's doing. Come on. Like, so even if he said like, oh yeah, I was wrong for saying that, but then he backs it, walks it back by saying, well, I didn't mean crosshairs. I meant like, bullseye, like to focus on him.
Mhm.
Like,
But and here's the thing, like, and you might consider this like a whataboutism essentially, but like when Joe Biden says like, "Hey, I shouldn't have said that," and he apologized for it essentially. Let's kind of look back like with Donald Trump and like some of the rhetoric that he's used to target specific citizens. Are you familiar with Ruby Shea and no Ruby Moss and Shay no Ruby Freeman and Shay Moss? Are you familiar with those two people?
name sounds familiar. I'm trying to remember why I know them.
They are the women that were in the poll workers down in Georgia. He actually specifically named them, saying that they were responsible for stealing the election, and he has doubled down on this. And they have had their lives threatened. They've had to relocate. Like they can't even like say their names in public. They took Rudy Giuliani to court because of the lies that he spread about them. These people have had their lives upended because of Donald Trump deliberately targeting them. I mean that, and Trump hasn't apologized whatsoever for stuff like that. And like it's amazing because like here's the thing that I've noticed. Okay,
Well, okay, hold on.
well,
Then what about like the dossier, right?
oh, the
The
Steele
Russian.
dossier. Yeah, the Steele dossier was
Come
horrible.
on.
Yeah, the Steele
Okay,
dossier. Yeah,
but like, did anybody like that would be considered um what is it something of justice damn it um basically like making a false statement for
mm-hmm,
one. You know that this information is bullshit,
mm-hmm,
but you're choosing to uh lead US officials to believe that there's a crime here, like the FBI. You're wasting US tax dollars on a bogus case.
mm-hmm.
And did anybody go to jail for that? Did Hillary have to pay for anything for that? Like Hillary literally did the same thing that Trump did when it came to the stripper thing.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but she got a fine. Trump gets 40 some odd counts of, um, what was it? What was he charged for? 44 counts
Like for
of
like business stuff, like fraud. I'd have to look it up, but
something you
yeah, fraud.
misappropriating
Yeah.
campaign funds or
Mm-hmm.
something like that.
Yep.
Right? She got a $1,500 fine or $15,000 fine, and he ends up, you know, getting, charged. Come on, like I'm just saying, like you can't look at it and say like, well, we could go tit for tat back
Mm-hmm.
and forth.
Sure.
We could, but we have to acknowledge at least that what the left has been doing to this guy is pretty fucked up. Like maybe his rhetoric is inflamed because of all the bullshit that everybody's gotten away with. During this whole time, when he was a Republican or Democrat, nobody had a problem with him. He wasn't considered a racist. You know, he won how many NAACP awards?
I
Several.
I don't know how many. Like, I know the Ellis Island has been like taken out of context. They say like he was with Rosa Parks and Muhammad Ali, but that was like had nothing to do with like him not being a racist or something like that. It was a completely different story essentially. But like,
Like Eminem handed him the NAACP award at like, I think it was like in 2006 or something like that. I'm just saying, like, this guy was not known as a racist. Jennifer Hudson, the singer whose family got murdered, I believe, up in Chicago, black chick. Um,
mm-hmm,
he flew her whole family out, on his private plane to Trump Towers and put her up in there. No cost to anybody. No, nobody knows about this.
mm-hmm.
I mean, there's so many like it's just ridiculous to say all the rhetoric that's been going on could not have contributed to any of these attempts or these guys that made these attempts at all. It just regardless that they Trump or Biden or Harris like denounce it afterwards. It's not what they say afterwards that caused the shootings. It's what they have said before that could have inflamed the shootings.
So okay, so here's what I'm curious about, right? When Trump says inflammatory things, when people expect him to denounce it, he's like not expected to. But when something happens with Democrats, why are they supposed to be the ones to expected to denounce everything? Because during COVID, Trump was saying inflammatory things like kung flu, China virus, and then guess what happened afterwards? Attacks on Asian Americans spiked during COVID because let's be honest, there are people in this country that don't know the difference between a Filipino, a Japanese person, a Chinese person, whatnot, and they were getting attacked left and right because he said things like kung flu, China virus, and stuff like that. But why is it that like when something bad happens to like and here's the thing, like I said, I denounce what happened, like the attack, like the actual assassination attempt on Trump, right? I accept this. But like whenever like people like I said, once again, Paul Pelosi gets attacked, the conservative base can make a mockery of it, and nobody's expected to like denounce the attack. The conservative base made a mockery of it, but yet when something bad happens to a Republican, the Democrats have to denounce it like outright. It's kind of like people in the Muslim community have to denounce the October 7th attack, but when the response essentially is, oh well, that's okay. We're not going to expect people to like denounce that respect. I mean, it's kind of like the same thing. It's just like, how are you going to expect one group to denounce something, but when something else happens on the
Well,
other side,
let's
hmm
can we be real though? Like
hmm
Trump got shut down from like all platforms because of his rhetoric, right? People didn't like the left didn't like his rhetoric. Most of the people that own or operate like these social media platforms tend to lean more left, right? And they kicked them all off of them to the point where like he had to create his own app, Truth Social,
hmm
right? Like so it's like he was silenced, he was punished. I mean, should he have said inflammatory rhetoric? No.
hmm
Should he have apologized for it? Sure.
hmm
But it doesn't matter. It's not like, well, why do I have to do it if you don't have to do it? It's the right thing to do, regardless. If you should do it, regardless who does it and who doesn't do it, you should still do it. That's the right and moral thing to do,
hmm
right? Like so if Trump doesn't do it, doesn't make them, the Harris or Biden, any less responsible to do it. If anything, how about you set yourself apart from him and lead by example and do it, and not do that rhetoric. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Well, so the thing is like I don't look at Trump as someone that leads by example. That's the problem. Because like when I hear people say things like and like hey Jake, listen, if you want to bop it in the chat, and Glenn, I'm not trying to cut you off now, but it's just like I want
no,
to
no,
get
no,
you.
no, it's
Yeah,
fine. I know
yeah,
if
yeah,
Jake Barr's here, he's gonna have
yeah.
fun with you.
I know him and I argue all the time, but that's okay. It's all in good faith. But anyways, like, but here's the thing. It's just like again, it kind of goes back to my point. It's like, why is it though that like when I look at people like Trump, I don't look at him as like a person that leads by example. He looks like a guy that demands that you be loyal to him. Like towards the end of his administration, I said this earlier. Towards the end of his administration, he actually had John McEntee going throughout the White House, telling people to sign loyalty pledges. I'm sorry, that's a problem. Like, if
Do you know why?
why is that?
Because he found out that Pence's office has been the one that was leaking all the information out. Like there was a mole in either through Pence or Pence's, staff who was responsible for the leaks.
Mhm.
And so, yeah, I would want to know who's going to be loyal or not. Like, Are you loyal to the office of the president who you work for? Or are you trying to, sabotage the good that we're trying to do? You know what I'm saying? Like, are you trying to sabotage our mission, or are you working towards our mission?
Mhm.
Like, and when you find that there's a mole towards the end, I think it was like the last 6 months or last
Mhm.
year. I want to say it's about the last 6 months because I
Mhm.
think it was probably prior to uh the count. Um, this information gets brought up to him. Yeah, I'm gonna be skeptical of everybody that works with me too.
And here's my problem with it. Okay, so Jake is still at work, so sorry, Jake, but I'll have to just catch you at another time because I'm gonna be wrapping this thing up here in about 10 or 15 minutes. So, but here's the thing. I'm the firm believer. Like, here's the thing. I was a leader in the army. I failed many times, but the one thing I never did is I never expected people to sign a loyalty pledge to me. Even if like people like might have been trashing me, so, like I don't expect that of my, because like when you're a leader, right? You
Yeah, you
want
didn't
your
expect it because they weren't giving you any reason to believe that they would. When I was in the Air Force, I was a flight leader.
Mhm.
I understood that.
Mhm.
So it's like I understood that the sergeant that people were gonna. I expect them to follow my orders,
Mhm.
when given.
Mhm.
And for those that didn't, maybe they were had behavioral problems or whatever reason.
Mhm.
I would be a little bit more observant of them,
Mhm. Yeah,
monitor them a little bit more.
yeah. Well,
But like when you don't have a reason, when nobody has given you a reason,
mhm.
you're not going to make them sign a pledge or make that kind of vow.
Yep.
But you have to wait till you get a reason.
Yep. But that's my whole entire problem though, is because like if you have to demand loyalty of your people, I don't think you earned it, honestly. Like that's the thing. It's like if you have to tell people you're in charge, it's kind of like when Bane says, "Do you feel in charge?" Because I look at Trump as a very insecure person. He has to justify everything that he does because it's his insecurity levels that are
It's
just like
but
skyrocketing.
it's not the man that they have to respect. It's the office that he
Mhm.
operates in.
Mhm.
Okay, so it's like you don't have to like me,
Mhm.
but you have to respect the position that I hold. And that was the problem, and I think that's what led to it. But so let me ask you this, because
Mhm.
why Harris? What has she done in her career
Mhm.
that has that makes anyone assume that the country would be better under her than Trump?
Okay, well that's a fair question. So she actually has proven that she can win elections. She has won for district attorney. She won as AG, and she also won as a senator. And she did it a full term as a senator. And now it's that she's like, and I understand people say, well, she didn't do very well in the polling in 2019, 2020. Well, neither did Biden, but then he became president. But the reason why I say that is because she's actually been able to lay out policies and she's working with people like Mark Cuban. Mark Cuban has done great work when it comes down to combating pharmacy benefit managers, which is a really big topic on like how they can be more transparent when it comes down to like prescription medications. She's talked about like how she's addressed issues, for example, like child tax credit, because everybody knows that children can be expensive, especially like if you can't afford to have both parents, like one person staying at home, you have to have both parents working. Childcare is very expensive, and it's like for some people, it's like $2,000 a month. This $6,000 a month, it might be for the first couple of years, but that can offset a huge cost. She's also got that executive experience where she says, "I am willing to surround myself with people that disagree with me." That is healthy. Surrounding yourself with just people that will just be yes sir, no sir kind of deal is not healthy. Like you have to have guardrails in place in the event that like that's the thing is that like and I'm not trying to bring up Trump again, but it's like that's the reason why like when people say, "Oh, why didn't he do it in his first term?" It's because he had those guardrails. He had people like Milley tell him, "No, you can't do that." He had people like Bill Barr saying, "No, you can't do that." You have to be able to tell people that will keep you in line so you don't make those mistakes. And I respect the fact that she's willing to do so. Is she going to be perfect? No, but guess she's got Tim Walz, who has a career. He has a great record as the Minnesota governor. All right, of signing overall positive legislation, whether it's free school lunches and breakfast for children. He also actually signed legislation to make it to where workers get good health care, essentially. 12 weeks maternity leave, 12 weeks of sick leave. These are all overwhelmingly positive. Like these are decisions that people like, whether it's conservative or progressive. And I know she's going to surround herself with people that are going to be qualified. Now, there's no guarantee the people that are working in this administration are going to get a job. I'm okay with that. But that's the reason why I can definitely be on board with Kamala Harris. Far more over Donald Trump,
Okay, so
yeah.
so when she was a DA,
Mm-hmm.
right? She would lock up a bunch of people,
Mm-hmm.
minorities at that, right? For weed and stuff, and then make jokes about it
Mm-hmm.
after the fact, right? You know, like, oh, what about the truancy law that she tried to do? She was trying to get parents, she was locking up parents if their kid was truant.
Mm-hmm.
And then what does that do? That puts the kid in the system.
Mm-hmm.
Not really good for families, not very smart choices there.
Mm-hmm.
Um, how did she do at the border? She was the border czar. Did she do any good at the border? No. I mean, how many migrants, illegal migrants have come in? How many like what thing was like 15,000 um criminals and like 5,000 or 10,000 like SA offenders
Mm-hmm.
that came in that we ended up having to catch later on. Like, I mean, she is did a horrible job at the border.
Mm-hmm.
Her budget or her tax plan tends tends to just increase the national debt. I think it's a whole uh 4.5 trillion, close to $5 trillion. Um her plan is also to tax the wealthy,
Mm-hmm.
right? And which I get. You may want to, everybody on the left wants to tax the wealthy. Well, the wealthy are the ones that tend to create jobs. They're the ones that tend to start new businesses.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Taxing them even higher when the bottom, I think it's like the bottom 50% of all Americans pay like 3.2 or 7% of all taxes,
Mm-hmm.
right? And the top 50% pay like 97% of it, right? And then the top, I think it's like 40 or 25% pay like 47% of the taxes. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, yeah, tax them because we don't need more jobs. Oh, and then the unrealized gain tax, 25% unrealized gain. Like, that is ridiculous. Like, that doesn't help. That doesn't help Americans. That actually slows down the growth. And her plan also is like projected to increase our inflation even higher than it is now. So all those great plans that, the $6,000 for the child credit, well, we're still going to have to pay for it. It's just going to be thrown on our taxes. Like, it's not free money. It's going to be the $20,000 or $25,000 that she's giving for homeowners or people that want to buy a home, whatever. That's going to be thrown on the backs of the working class. They're going to have to pay that. Okay, like, so it's like that doesn't help. Like, yeah, they're great cuts, but if you're not finding other means like tariffs to bring in more revenue,
Mm-hmm.
right? Then all you're doing is increasing the debt and throwing that on the backs of hardworking Americans that are already struggling as it is
Mm-hmm.
to make ends meet. That's not solving a problem. That's creating more of the problem.
All right, so I'm gonna try to remember everything you said, but it's just like I'm trying to like remember everything. But okay,
I'm
so
sorry
it's
if
okay.
I said a little too much at once. I get it.
It's all right. It's okay. You're the only person that's come on here tonight, so I'm not gonna get too flustered about it. So first things first, when it comes down to the people like smoking weed bit, I know she like joked about stuff like that, but the person that actually was responsible for all these crimes was actually held liable for that. Her office was just following the law at the time, which like possession of marijuana was illegal back in those days, and they were just following the law essentially. And she's basically made that abundantly clear that nobody should have to go to jail. So I'm pretty sure her position has changed regarding that. As far as the truancy, I need to do more research on the truancy, but she insists that this was like a law that she had like no real control over. It was something that was like passed. Even though she sponsored the law for the arrest, her office provided guidance to local attorneys and what prosecutions should and should not be made. So she kind of left it to like we talked about earlier, like leaving it to the states. So I guess some districts made calls that were not necessarily hers. So as far as like tariffs, Donald Trump doesn't understand what tariffs actually do. Now, there are some targeted tariffs that the Biden and Harris administration kept, but the thing is, when Donald Trump brought in tariffs, it actually hurt American farmers. There was actually a $36 billion bailout because of how much it hurt American farmers. And now he's talking about doing like a 60, 70, 80% tariff on all goods. That's not going to help the American, it's going to hurt the American consumer significantly. And we want to talk about like the
Well,
economic.
real quick, right there, you said the farmers. Do you think the tariffs are the problem, or was it the fact that we have sold farmland to China, lots of farmland to China? What was the problem?
Well, that's happened under multiple administrations, even under Donald Trump, though. But when I'm looking up in this article by the trade wars by foreign policy, they actually indicated that that like farmers were livid when Trump made those tariffs. Like they held him specifically responsible, and Trump had to like, oh shit, I'm sorry, I forgot, I got to take that one back. But I just got to keep going real quick. So shit, I lost my train of thought. God damn it, my damn auditory processing. But anyway, but Trump's policies, like economic experts, whether it like even economic experts, there was like a panel or like a question he was actually asked. A guy that actually specialized in economics talk about how your tariff policy would actually hurt the American economy. And Trump's only answer was, you're wrong. You've never been more wrong in your life. And he folded back his arms like a child throwing a tantrum, essentially. And when it comes down to his economic policies are talking about increasing, because during his administration, he actually increased our national debt by 7.9 trillion. Now, some of that was for COVID. I can see that. But his tax cuts to the wealthy, to the billionaires, his tax cuts could offset to people like me. My taxes increased under Trump. I am living under the Trump tax cuts right now. That's not helping the American people whatsoever. Now, people say, well, wait a second, who's going to pay for all these plans that Kamala Harris is? Yeah, I get it. The taxpayer will. But what people need to realize is that the economic plans that Trump has, that's still going to get offset. These tariffs, we're going to pay more for goods under the Donald Trump plan for tariffs. We're also going to pay more for his plan to cut more taxes. The tax cuts have already helped like it's been proven that the tax cuts helped the super wealthy more than help the average American citizen. And if I missed anything, I'm sorry, but it's just like you gotta just
No, I got you. No, well, I would
let's give it 10 more minutes if that's okay. 10 more minutes.
Yeah, no worries, no worries. I'm gonna send you a video of this accountant and tax, professional breaking down both Trump and Harris's tax plan. And he weighs in from a nonpartisan position. He's like, I believe he's an independent. I'm gonna throw it in the chat here on Zoom. Okay. And you just take a look at that when you can. I know you don't want to go too much longer, so I don't plan on you playing the video. But he breaks it down and he tells you the major reasons why their tax, like comparing the two tax plans, the pros and cons. Now, the only thing that I can say that it's part of Harris's tax plan that I agree with would be the tips. Not taxing the tips, right? But where did she get that from? She got that from Trump, right? She took that, she added that to her thing after Trump did. And I think you and I, since we're both content creators, could agree that that'll be really good because that means all of our donos, our donations or super chats would not be taxed. We wouldn't have to pay taxes on those. Now YouTube will still get their percentage, but we wouldn't have to be taxed on top of that. So I'm all for that. That's probably the only thing that I can say that she's doing that I agree with. But it doesn't. What does the adding? Because she's trying to put all this money aside to also create more apartments and homes. You could you could put all that money out there, but if inflation and the interest rate is so high, who cares if you have new homes out there to market? The interest rate's going to be ridiculous because of the inflation, and people are not going to be able to afford the home.
I think that's like the concept of like people that are unnecessarily price gouging, because you've heard that concept of price gouging, right? Where people,
they're trying to like her idea is if we have more houses and more things available, that will drive the cost of the houses down, right? So they'll be able to compete more.
So it's also like when it comes down to the price gouging bit, is this like, because there are some people, like some companies and right now, they like to increase, like for example, in the light of a pandemic, right, or like in the middle of a crisis. Say for example, a war breaks out with another oil supplier, and now they have to prioritize oil for their country, which means the price of oil is going to skyrocket. That's a different scenario. But we're talking about people that are unnecessarily price gouging. The same could be also said for like companies that build the homes and whatnot, that they're going to unnecessarily price gouge to the point to where, like, yes, it's going to increase the overall price and the income area for that specific area. But if it's unnecessarily price gouging, that's what we're trying to avoid essentially. Because if you live in a low income area or an income area, the median household income is like 45,000 people, then yes, obviously the house you buy is going to be a lot cheaper. Why? Because of the area you live in. Now, if you move to a suburban area where the average household income is like, 80,000, 90,000, $100,000, obviously that house is going to be a lot more expensive. I think what they're trying to do is because there are certain areas across the country where the housing is cheaper, but it's a very bad low income area. It's like like crime is through the roof and stuff like that. I think what they're trying to do is they're trying to give an
Well,
incentive.
then how about they just like
Mhm.
increase police and better policing
Yeah,
and actually enforce laws that actually better deterrents than for these criminals to not behave that way. Um, and then you could clean up the neighborhood.
it's that's it seems very simplistic like that, but like low income areas are the most heavily policed areas in the country, and still there's crime in that area. I think if you want to fix those areas, it's gonna take.
Man, have you been downtown LA?
Oh
Have you
yeah,
been downtown LA
oh yeah.
anytime soon?
No, well
The,
not
the
so.
most the most least placed policed areas
Oh yeah.
is in LA. All
Well,
right, downtown.
well, I've been in Compton. Like I made a delivery in Compton. Let me tell you that those streets are narrow as shit. I don't fucking like I did it as a truck driver too. So let's just say
I
it's
was just there the other day when Andrew Wilson and Destiny.
okay. Well, I haven't been there in about 3 years because I was doing it as a truck driver, and let me tell you, like I don't like driving. It's not because like the area itself is just like how narrow the streets are. Like that's a pain in the ass. But anyway, like what I'm trying to get into is this like some of the most heavily policed areas are, and I think it's because like area wise, it's a different story. But like what I'm talking about though is this like there are certain areas that are heavily policed, but police are a deterrent, right? But you have to look at the underlying issues. Why are these areas so crime rid? Why? Because economic opportunity is not there. Like if you take a comparison, right? If you take a comparison of a low income area and a high income area, what are some things you might notice? You'll notice like in a high income area, they got nicer schools, they got nicer hospitals, they got nicer community centers, they got gyms, they got nicer restaurant areas. But when you go to low income areas, what do you see? You see a lot of like the hospitals are not good quality, the grocery stores aren't good quality. A lot of that is all tied together. This is why like infrastructure is one of my biggest topics. The infrastructure is not as well improved in those areas. Now, it's a start, but this is not like a 5 year process that you can fix. It's like a 10, 20, 30 year process that's going to take for everything to kind of come to fruition essentially. That's like my point, but it's got to start somewhere. And so far, and I will definitely say this, the infrastructure bill that has been put together is the most extensive we had since Eisenhower. It's a start in the right direction, but we've got a long way to go if we want to make things better. If you want to make things better for every citizen, if you want to reduce crime, you have to find their underlying issues. Why is crime being committed? And if you change the culture in some areas, you'll actually change the outcome. And that's just my personal.
I think we all know why crime is committed because people will do bad things if they think that it's going to be in their best interest or if they're going to be able to capitalize on it. I mean, simple as that. So if you don't have a strong enough deterrent to encourage people not to do bad things, well, then you're going to get people taking the risk of doing bad things. Like, for example, why do women have no problem accusing men falsely of SA or other horrible crimes, especially when it comes to family court? Because there's absolutely no consequence that's significant enough that is a deterrent to make them think twice about doing it. So if you increase the consequence, if you make the consequence so you know harsh to where they're like, shit, I don't want to be busted for that. Hell no. Nah. Then they're going to most likely be less likely to commit those infractions.
So two things to kind of counter that. Like I want to counter the first point you talked about. Like if you increase the deterrent, or is like where people just like they're going to capitalize on it. I actually knew a guy who was from the streets of New York. Like he was born and raised, and he lived on the streets of New York. And he explained that he did bad things, like he did like B&Es and stuff like that. But it's simply because he was homeless, and that was like his only means of surviving. I'm not saying it's okay, and even he knows it's okay, but he realized he needed to turn his life around. That's why he joined the military. Now, not everyone's going to do that, but I'm simply saying, so like, if you actually have a social safety net to where people actually have the opportunities to better their lives, then yes, that's a way to do it. But that's again, that's like not a process that can be fixed overnight. It's going to take time
Okay,
to fix
can
that.
we both acknowledge that like that wasn't his only option that he had?
It's
Like
easy.
he obviously,
Mhm.
it was the easiest option that he had, and it was the most, it was the quickest option that he had,
Mhm.
right? It wasn't the only option. So like I think we need to stop giving, criminals the excuse of, oh, they had no other choice. No, they always have a choice. They just choose the choice that they desire most, what they find is most convenient, or for them. um and I because it's almost like, oh well, I murdered this dude because you know what, it was my only choice, I mean, you know what I'm saying, like,
Well, yeah, but I'm just talking about like small crimes, like just breaking into somebody's home. And again, I'm not condoning what he did, but I get it. That's my
do you know
point.
out here in California you could like, I could walk into Best Buy and I could take like up to $1,000 worth of merchandise and walk right out without even getting arrested, without getting a ticket, a citation, or anything, as long as I'm under $1,000.
I've heard
What's
about
the
that, but
deterrent?
well, I've looked at, I haven't looked into that enough, but that's something I'd have to look into a little bit more. So I'm not gonna, I'm
Like
not.
even 50 Cent said he wouldn't open up any businesses out here in California because of that law.
Well,
You know?
I have my own reservations about California simply because I don't like driving in California. But like my second point, I didn't want to get off track too much. But like the second
Yeah,
point,
sorry.
it's okay. It happens. I'm kind of scatterbrained sometimes. But anyway, like when it comes down to like when women falsely accuse men of SA, yes, I think it's absolutely atrociously bad. But there are women out there, like for example, the case of Brock Turner. The guy actually was caught what he did, and he got a slap on the wrist essentially, and that actually causes less women to want to report crimes. Now again, I'm not saying that like women that report SA that didn't happen to them is okay. It's not. They should be like, because there are plenty of men out there that have been falsely accused of SA and they spend time in prison. There definitely needs to be a penalty, but there also needs to be a harsher penalty for people that actually commit these acts.
I agree.
Yeah,
I'd
no,
say
I know
I
you do.
say if those that commit them, we should just take them outside and publicly execute them. You know,
Well, yeah, well,
I don't think anybody that does those type of acts are redeemable. I don't think that they could be reformed. There's no process in prison. I was a corrections officer. There's no
I couldn't do it.
process in prison that will rehabilitate them to not behave that way if they're already that way.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? But I also think that the women that accuse men falsely should face the same consequence that they do. So if we're gonna stone the graper, I want to stone the false accuser because they were putting that man's life on the line.
Mhm. Yeah,
You know,
mhm.
and to say like, well, what there's guys that get away with it. Yes, there is. There are horrible monsters that
Mhm.
get off on it. But it's not nowhere near as significant as how many women get off. And do you know 40 or 37% of all false allegations happen in family court? God forbid,
Yeah.
God forbid that you and your wife have a hard time and you get divorced and you're in a custody battle,
Mhm.
because the odds are against you in that case, when it comes to false allegations. Um, I'm just reporting the facts here. And I can even give you the book. You can get this book called "The Justice War Against Men" by Dr. Eric Nelson. He breaks it down how family law and all that stuff gets mixed in with false allegations. But what I'm getting at is that why do 37% of women that actually make this allegation in family court do it, even though they know that it's wrong and it's lying? Because they know that there's no consequence significant enough to deter them. Now, prison and is a deterrent, and we know that when you guys get charged for those crimes and you go to prison, the likelihood of you making it out of there, it's rare. Um, I mean, I tell you right now, as a corrections officer, there's been multiple times where we got a alert and had to respond to a fight where it was somebody that was listed for a pedo or SA crime,
Mhm.
um, has his brains all over the floor or his
Mhm.
jaw hanging from his face, and he needs to go to the hospital get wired shut. So those guys don't last very long in there.
Mhm.
They justice
I've heard a lot of
finds
stories
them.
like that. Yeah, I've heard a lot of stories like that. Yeah, so
So I'm just what I'm getting at is like when we don't have a deterrent significant enough, like even our borders, we don't have a reason why people would not want to cross our borders and break the law and infringe on our sovereignty, our sovereign land. Like if somebody walked in through your door, I guarantee you would probably put two to the head, one in the chest, and you'd be real quick with it and not even think twice. Even if they were hungry, you wouldn't care. Why do we do this? Why don't we have the same policy? Why don't we have the same mentality? And as a nation, why do we have all these illegal migrants that are here on the tax dollars, using our tax dollars? That money could be going to veterans, that money could be going to hospitals, that money could be going to a lot of things. But under the Biden administration, that money has been going to housing them.
so before we close up, because I just got to respond to that real quick, and this will have to be like the last thing we talk about. Like when it comes down to the migrants, a lot of people that come across come through like main ports entry. Now there are those that actually do get detained essentially, but like the thing is like migrants that come here, they actually contribute more like into our economy. It's actually been proven that they contribute into our economy. Now this whole concept, like I've heard the argument, like I need to look more into it. I got a friend that works in Border Patrol, and he tells me the same kind of stuff all the time. But like when I look at the statistics, when people say, "Oh, open border," even the Border Patrol says there is no open border. That's just like it's a buzzword that people latch onto.
It's
Uh,
not obviously it's not open border,
yeah.
but it's more of a citation and release border. It's not a
Mm-hmm.
detain and send back
Mm-hmm.
border.
Yeah,
Like
like
we don't.
stay in Mexico. Yeah.
Yeah,
So.
it's not like the stay in Mexico plan that they had
Mm-hmm.
before. So they still get busted. They'll still get like
Mm-hmm.
caught, and they'll get their information taken down. And if they're if we have any information on them that they are
Mm-hmm.
a violent offender, we do end up, detaining them and
Mm-hmm.
sending them back
Yep.
eventually. But everyone else, no. Um, like, and I'll let you finish because I don't want
Yeah,
you to lose.
it's okay. I mean, like at the end of the day, like there's a lot of things. Like yes, the border is an issue, but I think it's just because we have our immigration system is completely outdated. It needs to be enhanced. It needs to be fixed. But that's going to take some time. It's going to take some serious bipartisan effort. But we're not going to fix the problem by like consistently, because like the border bill that got put through it. The fact that Trump said no, 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 don't vote on it should be enough answer enough as is. But I honestly like Glenn, I do got to get off here shortly. But I think
Yeah, yeah,
yeah,
no problem.
yeah, I think you and I
One,
we can have like another conversation sometime later on the line. Just feel free to hit me up sometime, and we can talk more about stuff like this because I really do want things to get better in this country, but it's just like having been in some of these areas that we're talking about, like I understand what. Okay, I don't understand, but I see and I talk to those that like actually live the experiences. So like I feel like we could do better as a country, but it's just it's not something that's gonna get fixed like in one administration. It's gonna take years to fix essentially.
oh
So
yeah,
yeah.
and I think getting us out of the wars. I don't think we should be funding Ukraine.
Mm-hmm.
We six was it $6 billion we
Mm-hmm.
have given them so far. You know what we could have done with $6 billion? We could have definitely helped our vets. We could have definitely, cleaned up our streets.
Mm-hmm.
Shit, we could have even done those houses for the homeless that
Mm-hmm.
Newsom wants to do out here.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but no, we're
Yep.
sending our aid, our money, our men and women now, our armed forces, to help other people in their wars. We need to stop doing that. We need
Yep.
to protect our own land.
Yeah, well, foreign aid is another topic that I'm gonna actually gonna be covering sometime next week. So it's very extensive about it. So, but anyway, Glenn, I do appreciate you coming on. I felt this was a good conversation,
It
and
was a good
yeah,
conversation.
it's healthy to have conversations like this. So, but anyway, before you go, just go ahead and let everybody know where they can find you and what kind of stuff you talk about. Once again, before you go.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate you giving me the opportunity, Alex, to have this conversation with you.
Mm-hmm.
You can find me at Glenn Lawrence _presents, the production of men. What do I talk about? I talk about a lot of different topics, you know, anything from religion to relationships to the culture war, the cultural issues that we have going on here. I'm trying to bring common sense back to a world that seems to live in delusion. Um, I know it's kind of hard, but you know, if we're able to help one man at a time, my main goal is really to help men be proud to be men and to be better men for themselves and for those that they love. So if you're a better man first for yourself, then you definitely be a better man for your family and your loved ones. So that's the goal and the mission over at my channel. We do a lot of comedy. The best way to teach people some of the hardest topics is through comedy. So um, I use my skill set from my industry that I work in to help bring these messages across. So
Great.
come on over, check it out. We do some really long live streams. And yeah, thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, if you're watching this on the replay, feel free to go over to Glenn's channel. It's on YouTube and what else?
X, I'm on X.
Okay.
I'm on all the major
Okay.
social medias.
Yeah, so show him
Yeah.
some love. Go over and give him a like and a share and subscribe and whatnot, and just show this guy some love. So, Glenn, once again, I appreciate you coming on, and I'm glad we had a good, rational discussion. Like, this is the kinds of conversations I like to have. You know, even if we disagree, that's fine. You know, disagreement is okay. You know, that's healthy. So, but
Yeah, I'm not a debater. I like to have dialogue, like
Mhm.
real conversations, be able to
Same,
understand where the person comes from.
sir.
You know, I'm not trying to get like gotcha moments.
Yeah, absolutely. I try to be the same. I'm a horrible debater. Anybody can tell you, like, you know, even Andrew will tell you I'm a terrible debater, but you know, it is what it is. Like I need to work on that, but you know, it is what it is. So but
Well,
anyway.
thank you, Alex. I'm gonna let you go,
All right,
man.
man. Take care. Enjoy the rest of your weekend, sir.
You as well.
Take care now.
Bye.
Bye.